The Fan Counters Celebrity Podcast, number 167. Coming to you from nowhere near the entertainment capital of the world, this is the Fan Counters Celebrity Podcast.
You were like the carrot top of interviewers.
Wow, how disappointing was that question?
You did not just ask me that.
Well, that's a big question.
Never mind, I'm done. I'm not doing the show.
Wow, I can't believe it.
I'm telling you, I'm hooked.
Nick.
Yeah, he's so awesome. He's still a good friend of mine.
Welcome to the Fan Counter Celebrity Podcast. My name's Nick.
And I'm Tracy.
And we are here again for another great show. I think this one's a winner today.
Oh, definitely. I think so, too.
You'd say that no matter what.
No, this is going to be good, man.
Okay. Follow us on social media. You can go to Instagram. Follow us at Fan Counters Live. We're also on Facebook. Just search Fan Counters. And you can also email us at hello@fancounters.com. So this is our third video podcast. So that's kind of cool.
Yes.
We're here. Our guest today preferred to do it by phone, and we let him. So hopefully you won't mind that. We did put up a little picture, side-by-side picture, so you can at least see who we're talking to, and you can watch us do that. And
maybe that would not be cool. You know, they have to see us then.
Well, you know, that's part of tuning in on YouTube. Otherwise, you can listen on a podcast app, and you don't have to look at my bald head. So if you are listening to the audio-only version, we are on YouTube. I think that's important to mention because we're doing a lot of stuff now, like referring to video, and you might not ever have known that we're on YouTube. So just search Fan Counters Podcast. Please subscribe to the channel because we're trying to get up to 1,000 subscribers. It's funny that some of our videos have like 34,000 and 64,000 views, and it's like, why didn't these people subscribe to the channel?
Yeah, just hit subscribe. That's all you got to do.
I don't understand it. But if you can get us to 1,000, it would greatly help us monetize the podcast because we have a project. Well, I say we, but I have a project coming up that I'm going to announce right now on this show. I can officially talk about it because I have paperwork in hand.
And it's pretty darn cool.
Yeah. So as you know, guys of the show that you've been following along, we've been collecting stories about Heather O'Rourke, and we've been doing that for a reason because I just signed some paperwork with the O'Rourke family to do a documentary on Heather O'Rourke's life, kind of a celebration of her career and all the wonderful moments that you might not even know about, with some unseen photos and videos and that kind of thing. So please subscribe to the Fan Counters Podcast YouTube channel. I will provide some, what do they call it? Exclusive content to the YouTube channel, but only if you go subscribe.
Yeah. So like, you know, if they don't subscribe, then that means you don't get to see the exclusive
well,
stuff.
I'm not going to do it unless we get to 1,000 subscribers. I'm just saying. The challenge is out there.
That's a good challenge.
Will you accept the challenge?
Yeah.
Will you hit the subscribe button? Because if I can get to 1,000 subscribers, I'll update you along the way of the making of this film. But if you don't,
it's not hard to
I'm
subscribe.
Keeping it to myself.
All you got to do is just push subscribe and boom, you're done.
Yeah. So anyway, that is what's happening. We're going to start filming sometime this summer. Pre-production is well underway by now. And looking forward to making this film come true because, you know, out of all the stars, Heather O'Rourke deserves not only a documentary film, we're seeing them come out all over the place. We saw Natalie Wood get one, Jim Belushi got one, or no, is it John?
John Belushi.
John died?
No, yeah,
and Jim
John
is alive.
Jim's still alive.
John Belushi.
John Belushi.
The Beatles are getting one. Woody Allen's getting one. Everybody's getting a documentary, for Pete's sakes. I think they're going to do a John Candy one.
When are you doing my documentary?
When you get famous, my friend.
I was famous locally.
Wah, wah. Nobody cares.
Exactly.
Someone who we do care about is on the podcast this week, and his name is Steve Bluestein. He's a comedian, he's a writer, and he's got 3 wonderful books that he's got out on Amazon. I encourage you to go purchase them. The first one is called Memoir of a Nobody, but this man is anything but a nobody with his stories that he has of his career. He's also got Take My Prostate Please. I'm sure that's a comedic look into, and I was going to ask him that, but he kind of kept going on and on. But I'm sure it's a comedic look at having prostate cancer and how to get through that. And then his newest book is not a funny book. It's not funny. No. Point of Pines is the new book, and it's about growing up with a dysfunctional family. A lot of us have had dysfunction in one way or another in our family. I think you're lying if you say everything was perfect all the time. And he documents his struggle and his overcoming that dysfunctional family. Steve Bluestein, you might remember from the Brady Bunch Variety Hour, that 1970s television show that brought the Brady Bunch in a new format, in a element where they brought together other TV shows like Good Times. They had a swimming pool on that set. They had dancers. Robert Reed was lip syncing to not his voice on that show.
He was actually lip syncing. Okay.
Well, he had to have been, because if you watch episode 2 on YouTube,
yeah,
he's not singing the song with Florence, because as soon as the song starts, his lips don't even match up. The voice is different. I don't know who they hired and said, "Oh yeah, that sounds good enough."
It was lag time. That's what it was.
Yeah, it doesn't sound good enough. So anyway, any comments on the Brady Bunch?
Oh man, the Brady Bunch! I used to watch it all the time as a kid, and it was awesome. And my favorite episodes were the Marcia.
Yeah.
Or else the, oh my nose! Remember when she got her face bashed in with a football?
I do remember. I watched it in reruns, however, in like the late 80s.
Oh yeah, because you're a lot younger than me.
Yeah. But I was always more into Jan than Marcia.
You like Jan?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes. Why not?
Marcia was hotter.
Well, we're going to talk about the Brady kids to start out the show today, and then we're going to move into some stories about Barry Manilow, Donna Summer, and Candid Camera. We've got all of that coming up right now on the Fan Counters Celebrity Podcast. Steve Bluestein, welcome to the Fan Counters Celebrity Podcast. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Hey, it's my pleasure.
Now, when we spoke on the phone last month with our friend Steve Joyner, I couldn't stop thinking about a passing comment you made. One of the things that I most, was interested in hearing about, and so the first set of questions are about this, and then we'll move into some of your books and that kind of thing. But I got to talk about the Brady Bunch Variety Hour, which...
How did I know that?
I know.
How did I know that?
The 4th worst television show in history, right?
The 4th. We couldn't even be the worst television show. We had to be the 4th worst. It's like not even second place.
So maybe it was an experience you wish you hadn't had. I actually sat and watched it.
No, I loved every single minute of it. It was, first of all the writers were stoned all the time. That was number one. And I got, Florence Henderson and I had the same manager. So I got to really know Florence during the run. And I got to meet Tina Turner and Milton Berle and Farrah Fawcett. And,
wow.
Can you hear that's Alexa in the background?
I do hear that. I thought you were in an elevator or something.
It's saying that I have an interview at 10 o'clock. That's what it's saying. And it says it twice, which is so annoying.
We'll edit that out in post.
All right. All right, so...
I'm having trouble understanding right now.
Yeah, so... Oh, fuck you. So where
awesome.
were we?
Florence Henderson.
Oh, yeah. So Florence and I had the same manager, and we got to really know each other, and it was an incredible experience. And I, in the middle of the series, walked into the head writer's office and said, "I'm having my nose fixed on Wednesday." And he said, "Okay." I said, "So I won't be here Thursday and Friday." He said, "All right, fine." So in the middle of a major television show, I left the show to have my nose fixed and showed up on Monday, black and blue and bandaged, and I'd written across the tape, "Under construction." And Florence thought that was hilarious. And for the next 20 years, every time we meet, she'd say, "Hey, under construction."
Well, I rewatched some of those episodes last night because I wasn't born then, so I'll date myself a little bit. But I actually thought, because I did watch the Brady Bunch in reruns when I was a kid, it looked like Robert Reed actually enjoyed filming the Variety Hour much more than he actually liked filming the Brady Bunch sitcom. Was that sort of true?
I don't think so.
Really?
Robert was an absolute pro, did whatever he was asked, but he was so out of his element. He couldn't sing or dance. And so, but I guess he was being paid a hell of a lot of money, so he did it. But, he was a serious actor. He was a studio actor. And he was not happy that his legacy was the Brady Bunch. I have to tell you.
I can understand that.
Yeah, but see,
he was
so
he was a real professional from what I've read in history about him and stuff.
Well, and he was a professional on the show. I mean, literally, we'd say, Bob, you're going to be hung by a balloon over a swimming pool covered in ducks, and he'd go, okay. It's what I'm saying. He never once said, I'm not doing that. He was always quite wonderful.
That's cool. And I got to go right away to Jan. Poor Jan. I want to ask a question about the very first episode, which I watched last night. And I did notice from the beginning of that episode, she was given more lines than the other girls. And was that kind of a push to make her acceptable to the audience?
I don't think it was a conscious effort. I think it was probably just a way to introduce her to the audience. The original Jan had some success as an actress. She was in a TV movie about a teenage hooker, and she had a lot of heat around her at that time, and her agents didn't want her to do the Brady Bunch, so they had to replace her with what they call fake Jan.
Right. Did the other, I call them kids, but they were not kids anymore, were they accepting of this new Jan?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There wasn't even a question that she was anything but accepted into the group, and still is to this day, I think.
Well, that's a good thing. At least she's not like an outcast, like you sub for something.
Oh no, she was totally accepted from day one.
What do you think of it? The Bradys were pretty close to America's first reality TV show. Would you agree with that?
No, not at all. It was a scripted show, much more than a reality show's scripted, but it's a different format. This was strictly sitcom and had nothing to do with reality.
Okay.
No, it just seemed like
it was fantasy. It was all fantasy. It was the idealization of an American family.
That's what. Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I was. Yeah.
Well, because they were playing their characters on a show in which it didn't really make sense when you look at the Brady Bunch for them to have gone on to host a reality, or this kind of bit show that it was with all the different acts and that kind of thing in the skits. It just kind of didn't make sense.
Well, they being Sherman Schwartz, was going to get every ounce of money out of that concept that he could, and the variety was the next step. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, look, they just had a Brady Bunch house renovation on HGTV.
Did you love that? Watching that? Yeah. Oh, yeah. I watched it. Did you love it?
I didn't watch it.
Okay.
I thought it was ridiculous.
I want to go in that house now, though.
Well, the house is in Studio City, I believe.
Yeah, I've been by it
there.
On the outside. Not since not since the renovation, but yeah, that was like when I first went to California in, I don't know, 2008 or something like that. That was the first stop I made, was the Brady house on Dilling Street.
Oh, that's just so bizarre to me. It's because it's like where I work. It'd be like, if I was a carpenter and you drove by the shop.
Did you start singing the theme song?
No, and I didn't even get out of the car, but I took pictures.
Do
Oh, okay.
you you know how annoying that is to the people? Who
I'm
live
sure it
there?
is, because I'm sure I'm one
Because
of.
you're not the only one who did it. You know, I'm sure that it happened 20 times a day. And, it's very funny. When you're in show business and you're so, out there in front of the public, when you're not in show business, when you're not on, working, you want complete privacy.
Right.
And the house that I just bought is like a fortress. It's behind gates, behind a moat, behind a wall with glass in the top, and you can't see the house from the street. And it was not a choice. You know what I mean? I didn't go out and say, I want to buy a house it was just, this was the house that sang to me when I saw it. And then afterwards I realized, oh my God, I bought a fortress.
And then in the moat, he has piranhas and alligators he doesn't tell you about.
Alligators, right. It's very funny.
You did mention the writers were impaired on the show. There's a lot of speculation that Maureen McCormick was high during the filming of the show. Based on my research,
I never saw that.
Okay.
And I'll be quite. She was dingy, but I never once suspected that Maureen was on anything during the tapings.
Okay.
In rehearsals, I can honestly say that.
Well, I love the Brady Bunch, and
Yeah.
I always will. Christopher Knight was on this show last year, and just
Always a fan of that show.
Yeah.
Always will be.
See, I came from a dysfunctional family.
Okay.
So, I could not relate to the Brady Bunch. The people I related, the families I related to, were the Munsters and the Addams family.
Oh,
those were the Brady Bunch. Father Knows Best. The Cowsills. The other show with Shirley. Oh God, my name. I can't remember anybody's name anymore. The Partridge Family.
okay. Mhm.
Yeah.
I just could not. I couldn't relate to those shows. I couldn't watch them, and then I ended up writing them, which was hilarious.
That's awesome.
As a comedian, you worked with some of the greatest entertainers of all time, and in your book, Memoirs of a Nobody, you started writing about backstage stories you encountered with stars like Donna Summer, Barry Manilow, Kenny Loggins, Frankie Valli, and the list goes on and on. What backstage stories do you have that would surprise us?
Oh, really? Let's think. Well, Donna Summer was absolutely the most down-to-earth human being I had ever worked with. Our opening night at the MGM in Vegas, there was a knock on my door. Now, this was at the height of Donna Summer's fame, the disco fame. There's a knock on my door. I open up, and there's Donna Summer standing there. And she said to me, I just wanted to thank you for being on the show with us. We're really going to have fun this week. And we did. And she was from Dorchester, Mass., and I was from Chelsea, Mass. And we always giggled about, kids from the hood making it big.
From the hood.
Yeah, and she was just lovely. She was just a lovely human being.
That's really cool. Now, I heard a story that I really enjoyed from the time you opened for Barry Manilow. Kind of an unexpected moment that you will never forget.
Well, that's very true. On the opening night, it was the opening night at the Riviera, and the entire press had been there from all over the world. I mean, literally, it was an international event. And I was standing on stage, and I was doing a bit about natural childbirth. And in the middle of the bit, I heard someone say, Steve, get a doctor. And I thought to myself, oh, my God, not a heckler, not tonight, please, God. Steve, get a doctor, get a doctor. And I looked out in the audience, and there was a girl having an epileptic fit.
Oh, my gosh.
Right, and so I stopped the show, and I said, is there a doctor? Can we bring up the house lights? Is there a doctor in the house? And they brought up the house lights, and the paramedics opened they opened the back doors. The paramedics wheel in this gurney through the hall, down the steps, along the wall, back down to the front up where she was. They pick the girl up. They put her on the gurney. They take her up the stairs. They roll her along the aisle, then up the wall, then out the door. The front door is closed. The house lights come down. The spotlight comes back up on me. And in my head, I'm going, what the hell am I going to do now? And so I thought, this isn't the time for comedy. Why don't we take a break and we'll bring Mr. Manilow out? And that's what I said and walked off the stage. I got backstage and I was devastated because I knew I had just blown my career because I didn't finish the show. But turns out that the press thought that was a really classy thing to do, and they gave me rave reviews because of it. And then I was flown to Philadelphia to do the Mike Douglas show because one of the press people was doing the Mike Douglas show, and she asked to have me on with her. So it was really quite a night, one I'll never forget.
Well, you were just being human. I mean, human concern is to stop the show and get this person help. So. Well,
the funny thing was, the very next day, I was walking through the casino, and this girl runs up to me, and she says, "Hi, remember me? I didn't take my medication, and I passed out at your show last night."
Wow.
And I said, "Yes, I remember you." And she said, "I'm coming again tonight." And I took her hands and I said, "Take your medicine."
Oh my gosh. What a chance meeting of that.
Yeah, really.
Well, getting a career in comedy, I think, has to be a lot harder now than it was for you, only because the internet has opened up the availability for everybody to be seen, and anybody has a chance to go viral. That's kind of what I'm thinking as far as that goes. How did you find your way into the industry where you were opening up for major musical acts?
Well, I started in 1971, and at that time, there was only really one club in the country that was the Improv that was featuring unknown talent. It wasn't until the Comedy Store opened up on the Sunset Strip that it became exclusive for comedy. And I was brought to the Comedy Store by Dave Madden, who was Reuben on the Partridge Family. He heard me making people laugh around the pool and thought I was talented, and so he brought me to the Comedy Store. And I became one of the original group of about 20 or 30 comedians. Today there's 20 or 30,000 comedians, but back then there were only 20 or 30 comedians who were creating what is now the comedy club industry. Mitzi Shore created a club that every other club in the country based theirs on, and I was seen in that club and signed to ICM, which was a large agency, and because of that, I became an opening act. Today, there's so many people who say they're comedians that it's lessened the impact. It's lessened the importance. I used to say my cleaning woman can do 20 minutes. Everybody says they're a comedian, which is part of the reason why I stopped doing it, because the quality of the acts became watered down. It used to be a craft where we would work at it, constantly carrying a pencil and a paper with us and writing down jokes and, working on materials. And now it's just a way to be seen, and it's no longer a craft. I mean, there are some really good comics out there, but there are some really bad ones. And bad ones who get their own specials, and then that perpetuates the lowering of the standard. It's really unfortunate. I've seen it come full circle.
Now, I know you're writing your own material as a comedian, but have you found yourself or have you been hired to write material for other comedians?
Oh, absolutely. I wrote for Joan Rivers. I wrote for Liz Torres, Roz Kind. And then, we always would, amongst each other, Skip Adada use material I had given him. We always write for, always exchange jokes.
Okay.
Do it to this day.
Okay. In your opinion, who was the best artist you got an opportunity to open up for?
Oh, that's a great question. The best artist. Well, it's a toss-up between Kenny Loggins and Barry Manilow. Kenny, the music was incredible. Barry's showmanship was incredible. The pace of the show, the choreography, the music was, you cannot beat. You couldn't beat it. It was just, great.
That's pretty cool. My mom will be happy to hear that. She's a Barry Manilow fan.
Oh, yeah. A Fanilo, I think they're called.
Yes.
I saw him in
or
Vegas.
Or Manilow.
Did you?
Fanilo. Yeah, Fanilo.
Besides opening up for him, have you ever gone to just see him?
No.
All righty then. On to the next question.
For me to go see a show is like, a doctor, healing patients on his day off. You know what I mean? It's like, I just don't want, that's what I do for a living. I don't want to go do it on my time off. People like my family didn't understand, like, when I was not working, why I wouldn't want to get on a plane and fly to Florida to see them. Because I had been on a plane every day, 2 weeks that year.
Right.
And the last thing I wanted to do on my time off was to get on another plane. So the last thing I wanted to do was see another show when I wasn't working.
Okay. I can understand that.
I can too, yeah.
Tracy dug up a little tidbit. Candid Camera was a classic television show that was, obviously very popular. It starred a lot of regular people and that kind of thing. But you were involved in a revival of the show, right? The new Candid Camera, writing bits?
I wrote Candid Camera for Universal with Dom DeLuise as the host. And I used to call it Auschwitz with typewriters. It was it was the worst experience of my life. As a matter of fact, it was the last show I wrote because it was so bad. I said, I'm never doing this again. It was just off. The left hand didn't know what the right hand was doing. There was a classic Candid Camera bit in which they went to the South and they asked people to say the word O-I-L, oil. And it came out all and all. All right. So they wanted to redo it. So I said, okay, we'll go to Boston, we'll go to New England, and we'll have people say the word F-A-R-T-H-E-R. It'll come out father and father. So they went, they sent the crew to Boston, and the producer calls me and he says, the bit's not working. Here, talk to the director. The director gets on the phone and he says to me, listen, I don't understand. I cannot get it to work. What am I doing wrong? And I said to him, you gave this linguistic bit to a person who doesn't speak English? So I said, where are you? I'm in Worcestershire. You're in Worcester? No, the accent is completely different. I told him exactly where to go, what street and what, and then they got it to work. But a funny side note of that story was the address I had given them was like 2 blocks from where my father lived. So I called my father and I said, Dad, they're going to be filming Candid Camera right around the corner from you. Go over, but don't say a word. Just watch what's going on. He said, okay. So about a week later, the producer calls me and he says, Steve, I want to show you one of the outtakes from the shoot. And he turns up, puts on the film, and I see the woman, our employee, and I see my father walk up to her and say, "Hi, are you with Candid Camera?"
He wanted to make sure he's in the right spot.
Right.
Doggone it. These
and
parents.
I just died right there in the office. My father blew the whole setup.
Yep. Did he at least give you good intel when he came back?
No, well, he did get we did get the father and father to work.
Well, that's good.
That was the one spot.
So after writing for TV, you went on to write several plays and then went on to write some books. Is there one
Right.
format that requires more effort than each other?
No, they're both equally time intensive. Writing a play is, I think I would put in as much effort as I writing the books. It takes months for both, and it's really about having, what's the word I'm looking for? You have to be disciplined. I would get up every morning at 6 a.m., and I would go into my office, and I would write for about 4 hours every day. Then at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'd go back and rewrite what I wrote in the morning. And I did that every day for months for each project. I actually enjoy the task of writing. I'm an only child, so I work well by myself. So I get in the office, I write, and I rewrite, and it takes months for both processes. For both a play or a book. But you really have to enjoy what you do to do it, because otherwise it becomes tedious, and it's never been tedious for me. I love it. What's tedious is doing the promotion for those things, because to get other people interested in your work is really the hard part. Writing it is easy. It's getting people interested that's the hard part.
It's kind of like a podcast, Steve. It's really easy to come up with the material and we get a great interview, but to push it out there, when we began, that was a big struggle to get awareness and that sort of thing.
You become an overnight success in 10 years.
Exactly.
If you know what I mean.
Yep. It takes a long time to be overnight success.
We got 7 more years?
Well, go ahead.
Oh, I read in your bio that, and I don't know if this was pre-pandemic or not, but you had written a play that was optioned to Broadway, right?
I did. It was pre-pandemic. That play was optioned, and then the option fell out, and then it was picked up by the Delaware Theater Company, and we had a wonderful run in Delaware with the play. And it was, I have to say, out of all my experiences in all of show business, that was the most joyful time I've spent with a truly professional group of people who knew what they were doing and made it easy to have a production. I love that.
Was it because it was like the premiere of the show that you were involved? Because, I mean, as a playwright, you wouldn't normally be involved.
No, actually you're wrong. In the theater, a playwright rules supreme. If the playwright says, no, you can't do that, they don't. it's unlike any other form. It's always a collaborative effort, when you're working with a group of people. I will listen to every suggestion from everyone who has ever seen the play. I listen and I think about it. If I think they had a great idea, I use it. If not, I just say thank you. As a matter of fact, I did a staged reading once, and this little old lady who's not in show business came up to me and she said, "You know what would be nice if they did," and then she told me what she thought. And I looked at her and I said, "You're absolutely right." And that suggestion really kind of put a button on the end of the play.
Wow.
And it's, you have to be open to take suggestions. And I am. I will. But I have a vision. I know exactly what I want. If your suggestion falls within the parameters of my vision, I'm certainly happy to use your suggestion.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you are listed as a founding member of the Groundlings Theater. How did this opportunity come for you?
Well, show business is incestuous, as they say. I mentioned that I was one of the original people at the Comedy Store. The Comedy Store had an improv group called the Comedy Store Players. I was one of the 4 Comedy Store Players. The cast changed over the years, but at one period, I was one of the members. One of the other members at that time was Gary Austin. And I said to him, I really would like to join a workshop, to keep my chops up. And he said, well, I'm starting a workshop. And I said, can I join? He said, absolutely. So I joined Gary Austin's original workshop, who also included Cindy Williams and Terry Garr, Randy Kirby, just trying to think who else was in there. Lorraine Newman.
Wow.
We were all in, and that workshop became the Groundlings.
Okay.
And I was in the very first show that the Groundlings put on. And it was magic time, It was really magic time, because the Groundlings have become a factory for comic talent. I mean, every major Saturday Night Live performer is coming out of the Groundlings as the same as Second City. These two are the force behind improv actors today.
Wow. Do you prefer the theater and the improv and that kind of thing over the fact that and I have a really funny project coming up that I heard that you wrote for, but like writing, is it more pressure to do television writing because you're kind of on a deadline, you kind of have to come up with stuff spur of the moment if it's not working, versus theater, you're really kind of crafting it over time and you get to test it out, a little bit easier? What do you think?
Yeah, television is very a lot of pressure and not so much fun as writing for the theater, because you have a deadline, and usually when you're on a television show, you're writing with a large group of people, and everyone is fighting to get their material into the final draft, So it's not a collaborative effort most times. Let me say, on the shows that I was working on, it wasn't a collaborative effort. It may have changed now. I think the good shows, there's some wonderful writing coming out, right now. But like I said, I'm an only child.
Yeah.
So I prefer to work alone. my tools, my toys.
What show are you enjoying right now that you think has really good writing?
It's mostly cable stuff. I just finished. I can't. My memory is so bad now.
That's okay.
That I can't. If you ask me, if you put me on the spot and say, who discovered America? I go, I don't remember.
The Indians. The Indians discovered it.
Yeah.
I'm sure of it. So you wrote for Playboy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm unclear. Like this project that I want to ask you about, I don't know. They did television, but there's something about a hot tub, and you didn't have any material, so you ran down and you're like, "Oh, they're filming in a hot tub," and then you had to write back and write something for that. Was
right,
that was
right.
television, or what was that for?
That was television. In the late 70s, early 80s, ABC had late night specials that were run up against Saturday Night Live. And this was a Playboy late night special. And we had the three writers, myself and two other guys, had met with Hefner in the morning, and he mapped out what the show was, right?
Okay.
So we went up to the office and we wrote the show. And we met with him at 9:00 at night. And he read the draft and he said, "No, you know what? I have a whole new idea of what I want." He wanted a whole new show at 9:00 at night. So the trucks were showing up at 6:00 the next morning. So we went back to the office, the three of us, and we started rewriting the show. And we wrote all through the night, literally. 4:00 in the morning we were still writing, but we didn't have a script. So the trucks are rolling in, and I would run down to the set and say, so what are you guys shooting next? And he'd say, well, we're doing the hot tub scene. He'd say, oh, okay. And I go up to the office, and they're doing the hot, and we'd dash off the hot tub scene, and we'd run the pages down to the set, and that's how we did the whole series, the whole show.
Gosh. So my question comes to this. How did the actors, I guess I call them actors, how do they know what to be prepared for? I mean, they have no time to learn any lines?
It wasn't a scripted show. It was more of a variety show.
Oh,
so
okay.
it was people doing their acts. It was only the lead-ins that needed to know what was going on. Hefner was the MC, and he was introducing the different acts.
Okay. All right. So you're trying to punch him up a little bit.
Yeah. And we had to run down with his lead-ins. And
I was just curious. I'm like, how do you get away with that? The person on camera has to have a little bit of lead time to get familiar with the content.
We did. That's how loose it was. It was an insane time. Insane.
So Steve, with your comedy career, you've put on a lot of miles traveling all over. Since many can't travel at the moment, make us jealous by sharing your favorite location that you visited to perform.
Sydney, Australia, hands down. I did a show in Sydney for 3 months with two other comics, and it was literally a dream come true. That was in 1985. I have friends and family to this day from that journey. I'd always wanted to see Sydney. When I was in school, and our weekly reader, we had an episode about the Sydney Opera House, and I had always wanted to see it. As a matter of fact, the day we landed, I got to the hotel, threw my bags in the room, and ran down to see the Opera House. And it didn't disappoint. It's magnificent. And Sydney is magnificent, and the people are magnificent, and everything about it was fabulous.
That's a bucket list point for me.
Yeah, it should be. It should be.
You've got a few books on Amazon. A couple of them are, well, one of them looks like a sequel, right? You have Memoir of a Nobody, and then is it that you're releasing Memoir of a Nobody 2 soon?
Yes.
So tell me
Yes.
about the two different books there.
Well, it's actually one book, but when I finished writing it, it was 650 pages long, and my agent said no one's going to read a 650-page book, so we split it in half.
Okay.
So the first half, it's basically a continuation of its backstage stories and essays and funny things that happened to me, and then the second part is an extenuation of that, continuation of that.
Was book writing something you always wanted to do, or this opportunity get brought up to you and you went, "Hey, this sounds like a good idea"?
No, it was. I always need to be writing something, so I started writing these essays. Because I didn't want to forget what I had done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I put my resume down on the desk, and it said Rita Moreno, so then I wrote everything about what I remembered about Rita Moreno, and then it said Donna Summer. I wrote everything about, and I started doing that, and then that would trigger other memories, and you know what I mean? And so I just kept writing until I couldn't remember anything else.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then you got Take My Prostate Please. It's your journey through having prostate cancer and
Right.
and dealing with that ordeal.
And I would get up every morning, and things would be happening, that only happened to me, stupid things. And at night I would document it. And when I finished, I had put together an entire, from the very beginning of my diagnosis through the testing, through the surgery, through the recovery, I had a beginning, middle, and end of a story. So I published it as a book that would help anybody who was going through prostate cancer. And the book is, right now, I think it has 24 5-star reviews on Amazon and has been endorsed by quite a few prostate support groups.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's impressive.
But my new book, which is Point of Pines, is a completely different take on anything else I've ever written. It's everything else. It was comedy. All the other books. Memoir of a Nobody is funny. There's just no two ways about it. It's a funny book, and people love it because it is so funny. This Point of Pines doesn't have a joke in it. Point of Pines is just reliving a childhood that was dysfunctional and abusive, and telling how you survived such a childhood with the love of people who aren't related to you. And those people lived in a city called the Point of Pines. And I told that story, and that book's out about a month now. It has, I think, 34 5-star reviews on Amazon, and it's being acknowledged by mental health professionals as being important for people who are going through that kind of dysfunctional family stuff.
Did you find it hard to write it?
I found it freeing to write.
Oh, okay.
I really did find it freeing. Both my parents are gone. They're dead. When they were alive, and I would say X, Y, and Z happened, they'd say, no, it never happened. We never did that. Well, now that they're gone, I can write my truth without having to answer to anyone.
Yeah.
Right.
And that was very important to me. And I loved writing it because it just flowed out of me. You know what I mean? It just.
Yeah.
So your dad was part of your pain, but it seems like.
Oh yeah, both my parents were.
But it seems like you must have made some sort of
Closure. or
closure
something?
to that
Yeah.
to have a relationship with him where you can call him up, like you mentioned before with Candid Camera. You know,
Oh yeah.
did you heal those
absolutely.
wounds while they were alive?
Yeah, absolutely, I did. I was able to forgive and move on, and we did have a relationship, whatever it was. It was easier to have a relationship with my dad because he was more like I was. You know, he was funny and outgoing. My mother was vindictive and mean-spirited, and toward me. So that was more difficult, but I was able to do that. I was able to forgive and forget as well.
I know I can find this answer if I read the book, which I kind of plan to now because it's interesting. But with your mother being, you just used the word mean and vindictive. What happened to make her like that towards her child? I mean, having children, I feel awfully guilty, and they're only 9, but I feel guilty when I have to be really hard on them, and not because maybe I react too quickly, where I don't assess the situation and respond accordingly. But what kind of things made her?
Hello?
Yep. Are you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, so
But
I
you
was.
dropped off.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just trying to find out with your mom what sort of things made her leave you with the impression of being mean and vindictive. I mean, it's hard to.
Oh, do you have 12 hours?
Well, I'm going to read the book, but maybe peek into that.
What I've learned is that my mother was damaged goods. This will sum it up easily for you. I was sitting at a doctor's office with a friend, and we were talking about things that my mother was doing to me at that time, or things that she'd said to me at that period.
Okay.
And there was a woman who was sitting across the aisle, across the room from us, and there was a lull in the conversation, and the woman said, I'm sorry, I'm not eavesdropping, but I couldn't help but hear what you were saying. She said, I just want to tell you something. She said that if a parent says there's something wrong with a child, then there's something wrong with the parent. And it was such an eye-opening statement. It literally changed my life, literally, because she was right. There was something wrong with my mother. She had no maternal instincts. Okay. She only cared about herself and how the world reflected to her. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah. I think we all know somebody like that.
So,
oh, yeah.
And that's hard when the person who you're supposed to get your self-worth from is the person who takes your self-worth away. So, but I was able to understand that she had a problem and that I wasn't the problem.
Sure.
That it was her problem, and I forgave her. And so that when it came for her, when she became so ill and was fighting for her life, I was the one who became her advocate. Mm-hmm. I was the one who fought for her till the end.
Right.
And I told her that I forgave her. So
nice.
I have no regrets in that area at all.
That's good.
The stories we're talking about is from Point of Pines, a book that you can get now on Amazon, as well as Steve's other books, Memoir of a Nobody and Take My Prostate Please. Steve, it's been a joy. I'm really glad that you decided to join us on the show this week. And
it has been. I'm glad you guys asked me. If anybody wants to contact me, they can always reach me through my website, which is Steve Bluestein, .biz, B-I-Z.
Perfect.
And I'm always open to meeting new folks.
Are you on any other forms of social media, Steve?
Oh, yeah, I'm on Facebook and Twitter and everything else. You know, for enough money, I'll come to your house and talk to you.
All right.
There you go.
We'll get a pool going here.
Well,
Yeah,
thanks.
really.
Thank you so much. It was great talking to you.
Thank you. It really was. Your questions were thought-provoking and interesting. And that's refreshing. I appreciated it.
Our thanks to Steve Bluestein for joining us on the show this week. Tracy, thanks again for coming here.
Hey, thank you. I'm glad to be part of it.
Yeah, well, you know, we had some miscommunication with some guests today. We were supposed to do more than one show today, but that didn't
Well, we'll
end up
catch up with
happening.
them.
We will.
Yeah.
They're going to be on. So make sure you follow us on social media. Fan Counters Live on Instagram, but the big one is go to YouTube and hit the subscribe button on the Fan Counters podcast so we can give you some updates on the progress of the film that we're working on that we announced at the top of the show.
Yeah, that's going to be a good thing.
Anything else you got for this week?
Other than stay warm.
Yeah, that's a little hard, but we'll do it.
We live in Wisconsin, so you know it's expected, right?
It's 0 today.
Yeah.
We're looking at any positive digits would be a major plus at this point.
Well, technically 0 is positive.
Could be negative though.
It could be -1.
-0.
There's no -0.
Have a good week, everybody. We'll see you next week.
See ya.
Bye.